There are days when politics feels fake, like professional wrestling with better suits, and then there are days when reality shows up unannounced, kicks the door in, and says, "Hey, remember me?" Yesterday was one of those days. Yesterday was the day the Trump reality distortion field finally short-circuited in public. Not behind closed doors, not in a court filing nobody reads, on camera, in real time, in front of the people he wanted to impress the most. For years, the rule of Trump world has been simple. If you say something loudly enough and confidently enough, it becomes true. The economy is booming because he says it is. The courts are corrupt because he says they are. Deals are done because he says they're done. Facts are suggestions. Reality is flexible. And for a long time, that worked. It worked politically, it worked culturally, and sometimes it even worked economically because confidence is contagious and markets are emotional. But then came Davos. Picture the scene. Snow, mountains, private jets stacked like Uber Eats scooters, the World Economic Forum, the Super Bowl of global elites, the place Trump pretends to hate but absolutely wants to dominate. This is where he went to take a victory lap. This was supposed to be the moment where he looks the world in the eye and says, "See, I told you so. America is back. I'm the guy. Get on board." Instead, it turned into something closer to a slow-motion car crash where the driver keeps insisting the car is fine while sparks are shooting out from underneath. Because while Trump was standing at that podium telling the world everything was perfect, the world was very publicly disagreeing, and not subtly. Let's start with the setting, because the setting matters. Davos is not a campaign rally. Nobody there is wearing merch. Nobody is chanting. These are bankers, CEOs, central bankers, heads of state, people who speak in spreadsheets and move money with spreadsheets. They don't clap because they're inspired. They clap because they're reassured. And yesterday, reassurance was not happening. Trump walks out, red tie, confident stride, thumbs up, the whole thing. And you can tell immediately this speech was written before things started unraveling, because it sounded like it was coming from a different universe. He opens by declaring the American economy the strongest in history. Big claim, but fine. That's his brand. Then he goes further. He starts talking about Greenland, about securing the Arctic, about control, about deals being done. And this is where the air changes in the room. Because sitting in that audience were the people who actually know whether those deals exist. European leaders, diplomats, heads of government. And Trump wasn't spinning. He was asserting. He was presenting a version of reality that simply wasn't shared by anyone else in the room. And then something happened that almost never happens at Davos. People stood up, not heckling, not shouting, standing, quietly, collecting their papers and leaving, row by row. This wasn't a bathroom break. This wasn't jet lag. This was a message, a very deliberate, very public message. We're not endorsing this. We're not even pretending. Trump tried to play it off, made a joke about busy schedules, planes to catch, the kind of improv you do when you feel the ground shifting under your feet. But everyone watching knew what it was. It was a diplomatic walkout. And in that moment, the visuals were devastating. A US president talking to emptying seats while claiming victory. And here's the thing about Davos. Optics are everything. The entire point is the image of power and consensus. Once that cracks, the room turns cold fast. But that was just the first fracture. Because while Trump pivoted to his safe space, the economy, the actual economy, was doing something very rude. It was reacting, live, on the screens behind him. As he talked about the strength of the dollar, markets were flashing red. Bond yields were moving. Futures were dropping. And if you're not steeped in financial jargon, here's the simple version. The money people were getting nervous. Trump noticed. You could see it. He glanced at the screens, went off script, tried to claim the movement was positive, that it meant confidence, and that's when the room realized something important, not ideological, not political, practical. He didn't understand what he was seeing, and that's the moment that changes everything. Because you can disagree with a leader, you can even dislike a leader, but once powerful people believe a leader doesn't understand the system he's steering, trust evaporates, and trust is the currency of Davos. You could see it on faces, phones coming out, messages being sent. The applause at the end was polite in the way applause is polite when everyone is already halfway mentally in the hallway. And then came the moment that sealed it. The microphones didn't cut right away. Now, let me be very clear and careful here. What people heard afterward has been circulating widely, described, replayed, analyzed. It is being discussed globally. And according to multiple reports, the president was informed, in a moment meant to be private, that there was a serious legal development back home involving his property. And his response, captured before the feed cut, wasn't anger. It wasn't bluster. It was confusion. A question. And that question is now echoing around the world. Because whatever your politics, the image of a U.S. president learning about personal legal trouble while standing on the world stage is not strength. It's vulnerability. And vulnerability is something foreign leaders and markets notice instantly. Here's why this matters beyond the memes. For years, Trump's power has been built on an image of invincibility. The billionaire who can't be touched. The dealmaker who always lands on his feet. The guy who is always 2 steps ahead. That image is not just branding. It's leverage. It's what makes people hesitate. It's what makes adversaries cautious and allies indulgent. Yesterday, that image cracked, because at the exact moment he was telling the world America was unstoppable, the world was watching signs of instability stack up, markets reacting, allies walking out, legal pressure back home, trade partners responding to threats with real consequences. And suddenly the story wasn't Trump dominates Davos, it was Trump looks isolated. Isolation is deadly in global politics. Let's talk about Canada for a second, because this was the other quiet disaster unfolding at the same time. While Trump was using the Davos stage to posture, Canada was acting. No speeches, no insults. Action. Strategic, legal, targeted action. The kind that doesn't trend immediately, but shows up in prices, supply chains, and panic behind closed doors. That contrast is brutal. One side talking, the other side moving. And here's the thing Trump has always underestimated. Polite countries still have teeth. They just don't show them until they have to. By the time Trump's speech ended, the damage was already done. Not just reputationally, strategically, because the people who matter in that room weren't debating whether they like him. They were recalculating risk. Is the U.S. predictable? Is its leadership stable? Is this someone we can plan around? Those are not questions you want being asked about your administration at Davos. And the headlines this morning reflect that. Not victory, not dominance, confusion, chaos, credibility shaken. Different languages, same theme. The most brutal part is the juxtaposition. A man selling strength while signals of weakness flash behind him. A leader claiming control while reacting in real time to forces he doesn't command. That's not just embarrassing, that's destabilizing, and it feeds into a larger narrative that's been building quietly for months, that Trump's second act is louder but shakier, more aggressive but less disciplined, that the bluster is covering fragility. You can already see the political consequences forming. Silence from allies who would normally rush to defend. Careful wording, non-committal statements. That's not loyalty. That's distancing. And when a political ecosystem starts distancing, it's because everyone is thinking the same thing. What if this ends badly? Now let me say this clearly, because it matters. None of this means Trump is finished. Politics is not linear. He has survived things that would have ended other careers 10 times over. He thrives on conflict. He feeds on grievance. A wounded Trump is not a quiet Trump. But something shifted yesterday. The spell cracked. The lie that reality will always bend cracked. Because markets don't care about loyalty, allies don't care about vibes, and cameras don't care about your narrative when the room empties. The Davos disaster wasn't one moment. It was a collision of timing, of ego, of systems that don't respond to bluster. And once that collision happens in public, you can't undo it. As we move into the next few days, expect noise, expect deflection, expect blame, expect escalation. A humiliated narcissist doesn't retreat, he lashes out, and that makes this moment dangerous as well as revealing. So pay attention, not to the insults, not to the tweets. Watch the actions, watch the markets, watch the allies, watch who stops returning calls. Because the world saw something yesterday it hasn't seen in a long time. Donald Trump exposed, not by his enemies, but by reality itself. If you want to keep track of where this goes next, subscribe, because this story is still unfolding and the aftershocks are only beginning. And let me know what you think. Was this just a bad day, or was this the moment the illusion finally broke? Either way, buckle up. When the lies collapse in public, the fallout never stays contained.